Welcome to the Economic Liberation of Africa, where global Black brilliance meets strategic power building. I'm your host, Peter Grear. Today's episode was recorded during our Power virtual event, The New Gold Rush, Tapping African Talent for Diaspora Wealth. Before we dive in, I want to thank the African Diaspora Development Institute, ADDI, for their unwavering leadership in reconnecting the diaspora with Africa's economic future. This is a movement, not a moment. As of today, we are 1,250 subscribers strong, and we've set our goal to hit 3,000 before our next strategy session. If you haven't subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button now and help us grow the Pan-African media movement that's pushing the line to global Black empowerment. And if you want to join a future virtual strategy session or even be a guest on this podcast, leave your email in the comments. If you're part of an organization that shares our mission, share this podcast with your members and invite them to be in our next meeting. Let's build legacy, not just income. Now let's get into it. When I sent out the invitation for the event, I had no idea that I would, prior to the event itself, witness a revolution. And for those of you that are not as familiar with what happened on April 30th as I am, I'll say just a couple of things and then I'll move on. Um, One of the highlights of my life was 1964 when President Johnson signed the Civil Rights Act. One of the next best days of my life was April 30th past, when Pan-Africans worldwide joined hands, voices, minds, and declared independence for politics, economics, and culture. And when that happened, it sort of threw me off. And but it's important that we incorporate that event into our determination uh, to economically liberate Africa and the diaspora. So we have with us Melissa Muhammad. Of course, when Tony shows up, that means that Melissa is not presenting for two people. She's just presenting for herself, and Tony O will be representing remoting.work, and he'll present for himself. And all the article about the Pan-African unity that was demonstrated with the uh, protests of April 30th. I've asked Gerry. Gerry is one of my podcast hosts. He and Darren are podcast hosts. And I've asked to, uh, um, Gerry, I'm sorry, to chime in and represent the Economic Liberation of Africa podcast and give tidbits of uh, the global Pan-African Union unity and its power to reshape corporate DEI practices. And I promise you, we're talking about corporate DEI practices, but we're not the the purpose of the article is not about corporate DEI practices. The purpose of the article is about students around the world uniting for Black economic liberation, political liberation, and cultural liberation. It's a lot more than DEI.
Peter,
Melissa, yeah,
I'm sorry, go ahead. I was going to add something.
if you like.
What I wanted to add was, first of all, I'm happy to be here this evening. So much stuff going on across the world, particularly here in North Carolina. DEI, with our legislative body, trying to eliminate and abolish DEI programs across the state, which is going to have a significant impact on local programs. But I also say this because we talked about this earlier. The timing is now. You know, we've got a large enough ecosystem that we can begin to have some impact and reinvest those dollars into businesses that need to be able to expand and develop and do business across the pond and across the diaspora. And I think that's where we are right now. I've seen enough, I've heard enough. I'm happy that the students are actively engaged, but we really need to understand this economic system, which is driving everything. I don't care where you are. If you don't understand that piece, you're not going to get very far. And so, you know, my conversation today with, I'll be in Raleigh tomorrow, talking to legislators about budgets and those kinds of things that they need to be concerned with. For we don't have enough, we got to get people up to speed really, really quick. We don't have a whole lot of time to waste. And so, Peter, I'll leave it there. And I think the importance of the program is that we are beginning to not only enlighten people, but educate people and also give them an opportunity to look beyond where they are to do business across the globe.
Thank you, Gary. Listen.
Okay,
Thank
great.
You. Appreciate it. Thanks, Reggie. So now one of the things I want to make clear, there's more than we can cover on the agenda tonight. And so what I want to do as much as anything else is to find those that are willing to help us create a series of these kinds of meetings, all designed to create a theory or a blueprint to get the masses of Pan-Africans around the world involved in drafting an economic agenda that will empower all of our Black businesses and Black people worldwide. So if we run short, one of the things we'll do is we'll reschedule and we'll come back together and we'll do this one step at a time. This is massive because of the millions of people that were part of the revolution that took place on April 30th. We're not going to be able to manage that in one or two meetings. This is going to require ongoing dialogue. So with that being said, let me recognize Melissa. And Melissa, if you would unmute yourself, tell us who you are, what you do, and why you do it.
So good evening, everybody. Thank you, Mr. Grear. I'm so excited to be here. My name is Melissa Muhammad. I'm an international tax attorney, and for over 25 years, I worked for the Internal Revenue Service. That's everybody's favorite government agency, Mr. Grear. That's my story.
Yes.
So most people don't know. You see American businesses around the world, but how do they get there? And more importantly, how do they stay there? And one of the biggest tools that most of them use is the federal government. And I, in working for the government, work as a diplomat in many, many different countries. Having a diplomatic passport was amazing and awesome. And so living and working as a diplomat around the world, I help very large corporations. And in 2020, when George Floyd was murdered, I just took a pivot because I had never seen or served a Black-owned business and helped them to expand globally in over 25 years. And we started the Black and Global Business Network to help Black-owned businesses to access government resources to sell globally. I did not even know that helping accessing government resources was a superpower, but we've been able to help quite a few businesses with that. So in the 4 years that we have been operating, we've pulled together a lot of international lawyers, accountants, CPAs that are helping our businesses to do business in different countries. And for Hire Africa, this was something that as I started to look at domestic businesses, because we have over 6,000 businesses in our network, as we started to look at domestic businesses, we realized that the majority of them do not have teams. Like it's over 3 million Black businesses in the US and less than a little over 100,000 have teams. So I know if you're going to sell globally, you have to have a team, but you need one that's affordable. And I met Tony from remoting.work while we were on a trade mission in Africa. And when he told me about the platform that he's built, I knew that was something that was critical to our community. So we created a campaign called Hire Africa, where we're looking to help 10,000 Black entrepreneurs hire at least one young African professional and show you how to scale your business, grow your business, have a footprint in another country by hiring at least one young African professional and actually starting an economic revolution where we're not begging anybody for anything. We're not dealing with a colonizer, interloper on any level. I have my own business in America, and people have built up India, they've built up the Philippines, they've built up other places in the world in order to build their middle class. And this is one way that we strongly believe that we can do the same. So our goal is to identify these businesses. And, you know, as I go to these different events and I speak at different events, you know, we just continue to open doors and form partners. Last week, I was inducted into the World Conference of Mayors. I had no idea what they did, how big they were, all of the different cities that said that they're going to work with us to now try to identify these 10,000 Black entrepreneurs to hire young Africans. And I received an invitation to speak at the African Union in 2026 in order to talk about the project and to meet with the African head of the African Union to the US, like Dr. Arikana was. So it's a lot that is growing, has grown, and it's just a mission that we fallen in love with in order to help our businesses scale globally.
Thank you. Tony?
Yes, good evening, everybody. So we exist, to reduce business failures, particularly when local labor costs are the main barrier for businesses not growing. Okay. We believe that every business should have the opportunity to reach their potential. And oftentimes, budget and access to talent is the main reasons why oftentimes they don't get there. So we are very happy to be part of this collaboration, happy to work with Melissa and her team. Very exciting. So yeah, just whatever we can do. I'm here just to help.
Why don't you explain what your business does?
Okay. So what we do is we connect clients in the US, employers, people that need workers in the US with talent globally. Okay. We do it in a way that the talents are vetted. Okay. They go through background check, experience check, education check. They work from a facility, okay, in their home country, so they're not working from home. And so we do what we're calling now, know your global worker. The idea is that you need to know who you're working with and a little bit about them. And so we do all those sort of background check for them. Lastly, when they're working for you, they're working through a cloud PC, a PC that resides in the US, so your data stays in the US. So nothing sort of, your data doesn't move to whichever country they are in. So in a nutshell, we create a vehicle that businesses can use to scale their businesses you were using, and these people are in economies that have lower cost of living, so it makes it so that it's a lot less expensive for them to scale their business.
Thank you. Let me reference a book that and I have Tony G, my son, on, and Tony O with remoting.work. I was talking with Tony O about a book that I think all of us should be aware of, and the title of the book is "The World Is Flat," written by
Thomas Friedman.
Thomas Friedman, yeah, of the New York Times.
Yep.
And the reason we should be aware of this book is because the story it tells is a story about how India and China and parts of the Philippines, dominance in the Philippines, but and I talked with him about this as we're producing videos. But when the internet launched, multinational corporations in America and in Europe recognized that they could hire certain workers in India, China, and the Philippines to do work at a much, much cheaper rate than they could get it done in the Western country that they were in. And so what they did was they outsource, and y'all have heard of outsourcing through the years. Yeah, they outsource millions and millions of jobs that Americans and other Western Europeans have been doing to low wage markets in India, China, and the Philippines. And the corporations made a lot of money by doing that. But then, as Melissa says, when they did it, she didn't say this about the multinational corporation. She says, but this is what we should be doing when we start outsourcing. When the multinational corporations were outsourcing, they were transferring knowledge from the industrial countries to India, Africa, the Philippines. And you look at 30 years later, India and China have become superpowers because of the way they interacted with the multinational corporations that were outsourcing jobs. And so Melissa is challenging us, of course, to make sure that we outsource talent when we hire African talent or employees to help us scale our businesses. And all of this is with the expectation that Africa too will become a superpower based upon our ability to build the relationships with diaspora companies and African talent. I think that sort of sums up that part of what I wanted to talk about. Now, I'm not. Let me represent ADDI for a moment. ADDI is the African Diaspora Development Institute, founded by Dr. Eric Connor. And I always tell people that I think that Dr. Eric Connor is the most consequential Black leader in the world today. And I thought that up until a couple of months ago, until Captain Ibrahim Traore came onto the scene. And of course, I tell people that, in my opinion, the rise of Traore was because of the groundwork that Dr. Eric Connor had done in teaching Black youth in Africa the level of exploitation that was being done in Africa by multinational corporations, France being number one. And so when the coups took place, especially in Niger, and the students recognized it was time to kick the French out, they were the fuel that supported Niger, Burkina Faso, and Mali. And so it was the students that were driven by the knowledge of what the colonizers had been doing in Africa that brought about Traore and the April 30th global protest that took place. And one of the things that, and if you all didn't get my flyers, you might not have seen one of the objectives that we should have. I'm gonna say two things, and I don't mean to ramble, but I sort of know what I want to. I want to talk about two things. I want to talk about AI. I want to talk about the challenge for us to get the students to write a blueprint for economic empowerment in Africa and in the diaspora. Those are the two things. First, AI. I use AI virtually 24/7, and I use it for all kinds of things. Darman has been helping to teach me AI during our video production sessions, and so I'm learning that. I'm getting there, but I'm a novice. But what the students did on April the 30th, all over the world, I mean, they reached millions and millions and millions of Black people all over the world. So that's why it was, in fact, a revolution on that day. And what I asked AI, I said, tell me how the Black youth used AI to coordinate the global protests on April 30th. Mm-hmm. And AI did what AI does, and it gave me a blueprint. And I'll make a couple of points. If we ask the students to produce a blueprint to help with the economic liberation of Africa and the diaspora, they will do it. Now, they won't do it if Peter Grear asked them, but if Captain Traore asked them to do it, they'll do it. Mm-hmm. And ADDI, you all may or may not know, did a trade mission to Burkina Faso last year. And Dr. Arikana has a personal relationship with Captain Traore. And if the two of them decide to ask the students to do a blueprint for what it is that we want to accomplish with Black entrepreneurship, the students to do it. It may take a month, it may take a year, it may take 5 or 10. But if they accept that as their assignment for our liberation project, it will be done. So when we have these conversations, these are not idle conversations. These are conversations with a purpose. And so we just have to keep coming together and exchanging these ideas, knowing what we're after, and it'll happen. Lastly, about ADDI, I'm a member, and I've encouraged some of my family to also join. But a couple of days ago, Philip Springer, who is the CEO of ADDI, registered for this meeting. And he registered as a global business owner and as CEO of ADDI. And I was hoping that he would show up. I reached out to him. I never did hear back from him. But ADDI, one of ADDI's missions is to challenge African governments to create a right of first refusal for Black entrepreneurs. And so part of whatever we do out of this small gathering tonight is to challenge ADDI to work with us and continue promoting the challenge of helping to create a right of first refusal to the African countries. There are so many opportunities, and I have to stop now, but I'm going to say this. Western powers have been exploiting Africa for centuries on top of centuries on top of centuries. And I read a book. It's another old book, The Destruction of Black Civilization. And it goes back almost 6,000 BC. And it gives the chronology of how Europeans started invading Egypt and Africa. And so they've been robbing Africa for millennia, thousands and thousands of years. And now, with what happened on April 30th, the consciousness of Black people is at the point where we are saying, no more. We as Africans have to have sovereignty over our resources, and we have to use those resources to build Black families. So I'm going to stop there. I've touched on most of what I wanted to touch on. Why don't we, let's see, we've got really about 50 minutes. Why don't we open up the floor for discussions? And if you have a question or comment, a couple of things before I open the floor, but I do want hands if there are people that have questions or want to make comments. I think we have time to do it. And if there's anything that we haven't discussed on the agenda that anyone wants to discuss, then we can do that also. But GDN, the Economic Liberation of Africa, is soliciting guests for our podcast and for articles. And we want our guests to really be on topic with what it is we're talking about tonight and what we're trying to accomplish. And I've asked Tony O and Melissa, and someone from Tony O's Network has reached out to me to be interviewed. I haven't had time to get back with him, but if you have success stories, if any of you all know people that are interested in what it is that we're doing, uh, Darren, Gary, myself, we'll interview them, and we will use it to grow this initiative as we grow greater diversity in news and the economic liberation of Africa. So with that, I'll stop. Questions, observations? Before we continue, if you're feeling this conversation, we need you in the room next time. Drop your email in the comments to get invited to our next live strategy session or to be featured in an upcoming episode of the Economic Liberation of Africa. And if your organization, church, school, or professional network shares our goals, forward this episode to them and let's grow this revolution together. We're not asking permission, we're building power.
So I can jump in, Mr. Grear,
Please.
To add a couple of things. So, starting with actual facts and why this is so pivotal is if India effectively last year bypassed China as having the most populous country in the world, right? So now India is at 1.45 million, China's at 1.4. And if you look at the population of the continent of Africa combined, the current population is 1.54 billion, surpassing both India and China. The continent of Africa has the largest population on the planet. And if you add to that the average age, median age by continent, the average age in America is 35. The average age in South America is 31. The average age in Asia is 31, and Japan in particular is 47. The average age in Australia is 33, and the average median age is 42 in Europe. And the median age in Africa is 18. 18. So we look at numbers when we are on our mission because we want generational impact. So if you're talking about making a change, one of the things that really attracted me to what you talked about with ADDI when we first met was if African countries offer the first right of refusal to diaspora and businesses in the US, anywhere around the world, then as we work with those companies to get those contracts, then we should staff those contracts with remote workers from remoting.work. And so now that company, if I get a contract in Rwanda where I am providing that service in Rwanda, and I'm working with remoting.work and with Tony's team, and they have an office and a group of young people in Rwanda, now you're able to offer the opportunity for these young people to support that contract by being on my team. And now I'm transferring the knowledge that I have to these young people. And this is why I'm saying young. It doesn't have to be limited to that. But I think that we have to factor in that when we say we have the opportunity for a global economic revolution, that is real. We don't have to ask anybody for permission to hire a young person to be on our team. And the average cost is between 800 to 1,200 USD a month to add this person to your team. And then I have a person in Rwanda that can not only help me build my business, but they can help me service that contract that is in Rwanda that I received as a first right of refusal. So the structure of what we're able to change is extremely doable. You want to keep it simple. You want to keep it symmetrical. You don't want to make it complicated. And if you teach young people at this age to work in that type of partnership, I think that is what will make us successful. One of the many things I like about the article that you sent out is as it listed the different cities around the world where the protests took place, now these individual protests are not disconnected. Because of the internet, because of social media, now these young people can be connected. And what do we give to them as a legacy? Not a lot of conversation. It is, here's the way that we can get contracts in African countries. We have the talent in all of these Western countries and all around the world to be able to deliver on those contracts. I know for me, 25 years, I've helped many large multinationals to do that. So there are thousands of people with the level of talent that we've gathered in these Western countries where we can deliver on these contracts. And it's a win-win because we build our American business, our Canadian business, our German business, our UK business. We build our businesses within the countries, but at the same time, to this 17, 18, 25, 30-year-old, we're offering them the opportunity to not only get a currency from our country, but at the same time, I connect them to the government office where they can shepherd that contract on our behalf in that country. That's the vision that we at Black and Global see as working through this process.
Questions, comments?
That's amazing, Melissa. When we go and talk to people in Africa, the amount of just talent that are there, okay, that most businesses here they don't even know how to access this talent, that can completely change everything for them. Seriously. It's no, it's amazing. It's amazing. It's incredible, the opportunity. And we look at this like there's a local chamber here that partnered with us, and so it's a Black Chamber of Commerce here in Memphis. So they want to find a way to grow the local businesses that they have, and they want to create 8,000 jobs over the next 5 years, 8,000 jobs in Memphis. Okay. But they realize that most of these businesses, the issue they have is budget. So they partnered with us specifically to help those businesses so that those businesses can then hire locally here in Memphis. So this impacts everybody. Okay, so it's not a win-lose, it's a win-win for both the local economy here in Memphis, for example, or in Maryland, and also in local economy in Accra or Joburg or Lagos or Abuja, so it's a win-win opportunities, for a lot of these guys. Again, for us, we're very excited about, really democratizing access to what only large businesses could have been able to do in the past. So again, this, I love, sort of what Melissa is doing. Okay. I mean, and Peter, I love what you guys are doing. We are just here to, to be part of the solution. And, what we do is is just part of the overall solution in order to take Africa's economy to where it's probably going to be in 50 years. And I think that they're afraid of that. That's what.
Yes. Yeah.
There's power in numbers.
Thank you. Comments, anyone? Questions?
Peter, real quickly, we got to create systems in order to transact business. I mean, we know that there are issues and some challenges in terms of transactional business, but we got to build the systems in order to make that a little bit more fluid. And So that's where we need to begin. You know, how do we get 4 million Black American companies in America to begin to do trading in Africa and Brazil and Jamaica, so on and so forth. And some companies are already doing that, but that's the kind of joint session we need to have to talk about, you know, how that's done and who's doing it the right way and how can we model that and how do we connect with our trade offices. I mean, there's a lot of things that need to be done that can make the process a lot easier.
Let me respond to you, Gerry.
Yeah.
Let me respond to you because obviously I think you're right, but that's where the students come in. Throw it on their plate. Say, hey, look, we need a blueprint for how to empower the 4 million Black businesses that we already have in America and empower them in such a way that they're also creating job opportunities and businesses in Africa and other parts of the world. I mean, what we're challenged to do is to think through all of the moving parts and use cyberspace, social media, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All of the experience we have around the world. And we have the richest continent in the world right there calling on us. Come help us establish the economic sovereignty, the resource sovereignty, the cultural sovereignty, the political sovereignty that we need as African countries, so that we can do what what we all are praying for and dreaming of. But I think it has to start somewhere, and I don't know of a better place for it to start than right here where we are.
And Gerry, let me say that's what we do at Black and Global. So we are an international business development firm, and we do exactly what you're saying. And do you mind me sharing my screen, Mr. Grear, just a little bit?
Sure. Let me see if I can get in.
It'll allow me to do it. So can you see this roadmap? Can you all see?
So you all may be able to see. I may not be able to see, but
I see it.
Okay, well, you go ahead. Go ahead, Melissa.
So this is what we do as international attorneys. We work with our businesses and we take them through this 16-week step-by-step process where we assign them a global virtual assistant that we have trained to help them do everything from the paperwork to getting their certification to meeting with the government offices to help them identify global contracts to creating jobs. And this has changed, of course, over the past few months, and we're waiting for all of the adjustments and fallouts to really figure out where the impacts are. But this is the roadmap. This is the system that we use, and we are hand holders to actually help them do the paperwork to get the contracts. So what has that resulted in? So we have one contract in the Philippines now that is for a Black-owned business, and that's $16.4 million using these steps where they're selling a U.S. product into the Philippines to be sold into Taiwan. We have another project that is a $50 million project where we are selling from the U.S. into Zimbabwe. And we have another $60 million project that's over 5 years that we're selling from the U.S. into Zimbabwe. So using this system, what we do is we take all of the talent that we as international attorneys have done and we put it into a 16-week system. We work with businesses for a year and we help them to identify contracts. So we literally get reference contracts from all over the world because like I told you, we went on a trade mission with Tony, but we've been to probably 13, 14 countries talking to different groups about doing business with Black American countries. And what has that turned into? So we literally have a catalog of 200 plus global contracts people send us to say, okay, Melissa, do you have someone in this industry and that industry? And we pre-vet those contracts, and then we find American businesses to be able to deliver on those contracts. So that infrastructure that you're talking about, the step-by-step process, that's why it is important to take the expertise that we all have in different areas. And then you don't have to reinvent the wheel, because we've already put that system in place, and we are currently growing our businesses in other parts of the world. We've done smaller contracts too, 10,000, 100,000. We've done smaller contracts as well. But our goal is for all the contracts that we get, is to have our businesses to staff their contracts with workers from young African talent. That's one of the things. Because the reason the government will help you is because you have job creation. So as you get that contract in Rwanda, or let's say you get that $16 million contract in the Philippines, you're going to hire more people here in the US. But at the same time, you hire someone on your team to be able to manage that contract. And we would hire someone from one of Tony's remote locations. And he has operations in 47 countries, 47 of the 54. And he has access to over 50,000 professionals covering many, many different sectors. So it works for us because of the breadth of what he offers, and we manage the contracts, right? So for us, it's about actually getting the contracts, and we put the financing together for the businesses to be able to do the global contract. So we have that infrastructure in place.
I like that model. It's certainly replicatable. And it's intentional. And what do you need? You need more capital? What do you need? Or you're fine where you are?
No, we are looking for more companies. We have more contracts than we have companies.
Okay.
We have more contracts than companies.
I saw that Celia Holiday Turner's hand was raised at one point. I'm not sure she's still interested in asking a question.
I was just texting you guys. I'm off to another meeting. I thoroughly enjoyed this meeting, and I did have a comment, but I have to leave now. And I'm going to reach out to Darren to get your contact, Melissa, and Gerry McCants, because you two have said some things that I'm very interested in. So sorry I have to leave, but I'll see you at the next meeting, hopefully.
Thank you for joining us.
You're welcome.
And anyone else?
I had a question, Melissa, in terms of the contracts that you mentioned. And I know it may not be similar to the US because I'm on the sam.gov and the state contract website in the US, but I'm sure they don't have anything comparative on the continent. So, but in terms of identifying contracts, is that something that someone would just go through you? Or is there some type of database or something that you have access to?
Well, so let's step aside from Black and Global. There are different groups that will curate what they call contracts, right? And they will be opportunities. Now, I'm a very straight shooter, right? I'm a numbers person. And, I don't like the runaround a lot of times that people get in terms of telling me that these contracts are available and they're not. So I can't vouch for any of those systems. I know for us, we pre-vet them. So a company or the government or someone will send them to us. We will pre-vet them to make sure that they are in fact real contracts. Because what happens, Darren, is if you decide to go to a country, the director of outreach from Black and Global is in Rwanda. So I use her as an example oftentimes. So for example, and she's learned this from working with us because her major was nursing. She didn't know anything about international business, but her talent was exceptional. So she started working with us in a different capacity as my executive assistant, but her talent was so extraordinary that she's grown into the director of operations. So she met with the U.S. Embassy in Rwanda on our behalf, right? And she asked them, who imports U.S. products into Rwanda? Can you give us a list of the U.S. of the products? what are the contracts that you know of that are available? So the team on the ground, the U.S. has teams on the ground in about 100 countries to go and get you contracts. Like this domestic game, Darren, y'all do where y'all on sam.gov and y'all competing and y'all, that kind of, that's not for me. Because to me, there's not a lot of domestic support for people. You got to do it on your own. But in global business, the government hires someone that is at the embassy in that country to go and get you 5 potential partners to buy your product, to buy your services. And the government will vet that person for you. And the government will vet the contract for you. So it costs you $950 for the government to find you 5 people to buy from you. But there's no SAMS registration, there's no UEI number, you ain't got to ask anybody for anything. Depending on if you have like medical products going into a country, then you may have to go through the equivalent of FDA in their country. But so for us, the contracts we pre-vet. We pre-vet them, and we won't bring a company into our program unless we have identified contracts that we are comfortable. Now, the key for us is we will, through the government, put you in front of the contract. You have to negotiate for yourself. We won't negotiate the deal for you. You actually have to negotiate. And then if you select someone who wants to do business with you, then we become your lawyers and we represent you through the deal. But the government will only put you in front of, well, I say 5 buyers, but if you want to add a 6th buyer, a 7th buyer, 8th buyer, guess how much money they charge you to add an additional buyer? A whopping $30.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Melissa, if you will, tell us about supply chains and how you bring together distributorship opportunities. I don't know if I've ever heard you speak to that directly, but can you?
Yeah. Yes, one of my greatest desires is to do an end-to-end Black-owned supply chain. That was one of my greatest desires, like everything from the raw materials coming into the actual production of the product and or service, because let me say, a lot of times service businesses count themselves out and they don't think they can export. But we have a consultant right now who is in Saudi Arabia on a contract where he is doing consulting and training for 3,000, a company that has 3,000 employees, an electric company. So he does consulting, HR, accounting, legal. If you can sell it in America, you can basically sell it in other countries. So, or to people coming to America to do business. So in creating a supply chain, we work very hard to make sure that the different pieces of the supply chain are Black-owned businesses. So if you are coming into, if you're bringing products, let's say from Rwanda as an example, and those products are coming into a U.S. port, our goal is to have a Black-owned freight forwarder to pick up those products and supplies at the port. And that's exporting, because that company is helping a foreign business to come into the U.S. So, and then what's so fragile right now, everybody sees what's happening at the ports, and what's happening with all of the supplies, but the supply chain, but you nearshore. So you don't just rely on one production source in order to provide your product or your service. You want to have multiple different suppliers as a part of that chain. And some of the things we see are things like this. Right now, we're working with Black automotive companies. And my goal was, Tony, we were in South Africa, and we met with the equivalent of the Secretary of State for Gauteng, which is Johannesburg. And I just said, I want to bring Black-owned businesses, Black automotive companies to come to meet with the automotive manufacturers in South Africa. Now, do you think I knew that there were some automotive manufacturers? No, I didn't know that. I just told her that would be a beautiful thing. And lo and behold, there are 10 OEMs. And they're OEMs from Japan, they're OEMs from the UK, from the US. And so we just said, can we bring the automotive suppliers to you all to talk to you all about exporting? And then what happens is, so we are looking to make that entire supply chain Black. So the raw materials, and they are the suppliers coming into getting on a freight forwarding ship, because we have a Black-owned shipping company that is in our network. So we have Black-owned freight forwarders, as I said, delivering supplies onto those contracts in those countries. So, but we also looked at, we went to Latin America, we went to Panama, Costa Rica, and Colombia in order to find supply chain opportunities for our businesses as well, because we want to have supply chain opportunities in Africa, but we also want to have them in the Caribbean so that, you know, we can avoid the port issues or the transportation issues. So we really work to strengthen them. Now, we don't always make it. We don't always make it, but at least we strive to make sure that our businesses are part of that chain.
Let me sort of take a little bit of a turn, unless there's a pressing question. And what I want to do is look to the future for those of us that are online, and talk about the fact that there is a move in Africa by a growing number of countries to ban the export of raw resources. And what I did an AI search, asked AI to give me a list of countries that were banning the export of raw materials and unfinished resources. And so I got about 10. And by my personal knowledge, I knew of 4 or 5 others. So we're talking about 15, maybe more or less. And I asked AI whether there were companies or countries in Africa that also had the right of first refusal. And basically AI says not directly, but a lot of them are committed to trying to customize policies that will enable diasporans to get into the country and do business. And I say that because our challenge to move from where we are tonight to a better place requires us to decide on how we get from here to a better place. Obviously, I've enjoyed the time that we spent tonight. I think we covered really good ground. But where do we go from here? Do we want to get back together and my real thought is, and I don't know how to do it, is that we need to commit to challenging Black youth to create us a blueprint that will lead to the economic liberation of Africa and the diaspora. I think they can do it. They can go into cyberspace and all of these fancy things that they did in organizing the protests, and they can organize a skeleton blueprint. They don't have to conquer the world all at once, but they can make a start, and they can, because of what happened on April 30th, Pan-African minds, many Pan-African minds are in the same place, and they want to do what it is that I'm talking about. So I'm not just blowing smoke. So where do we go from here? Suggestions, thoughts, ideas?
I think where do we go from here is that we have a model in place that Melissa is using, and you have another model in terms of the gentleman who has the opportunity to do staffing globally.
Tonio.
Yeah, and I think we just need to plug into that. And there are many companies that want to attach themselves to a system where they can make it a lot easier for them to do business and make it more transactional. So I think we've got something there. And there's some other things that are going on too. We've got to have some joint sessions to talk through some things that may be challenging for some small firms, and be able to vet those firms who have the capacity and the resources to do what they need to do.
Okay, okay, thanks, Gary. What I'll do is I'll get with Gary. I've already talked with him about this, and we'll do an outline that will address some of these questions that are topics that have come up tonight. I have this being recorded, so we'll get it transcribed, and we'll do a podcast. We'll do some articles, and I will contact all of you that are in this meeting for follow-up in a month or so. Hopefully not too long, because what we're doing is something that should not wait, but we're all busy. And so I'm sure that we're not able to accomplish it in one fell swoop, but we can get started. Look, I have you all scheduled for 8:30. It's 8:12.
Mr. Greer, can I add two things?
You have 18 more minutes.
Oh no, it won't take that long. It won't take that long. So one is we're dropping a link in the chat. What we look for are businesses to book a one-on-one consultation with us to talk about Hire Africa. One of the many things I love about remoting.work is the ease of use, and the team will set up a free one-on-one consultation, talk to you about what your needs are, help you if you need a job description. And because it's a long-term relationship that we're looking for and full-time employment for the person that you're hiring, it's really imperative that there's a good fit. And I think many times people just don't know how to hire an assistant. And more importantly, they don't know how to delegate, or they don't want to delegate. But we can show you how to do that, and take it from somebody that I have 5 people probably from 4 countries on the continent that run Black and Global, and 1 person from the Philippines. So it is actually walking you through, how do you do that? How do you build the trust? And remoting.work's team will work with you to look at what your business needs are, what your budget is, how finding the best fit for you. They really respect your time as an entrepreneur, because they will pre-vet the talent for you before they even get to you. And you will have one day where they'll have all the people waiting to come and talk to you, back to back, in 30-minute sessions. And then they'll help you to shortlist people that might be a good fit, because I'm going to tell you, if the person's voice irritates you, do not hire them. You got to find somebody that is a good fit. I love Quincy. Quincy is my EA, and Quincy's from Kenya. I mix them sometimes, but Quincy's on now. She's from Kenya. I love her voice. She is the most peaceful person, and especially I can get wound up. So you don't want to put an anxious person with me. It won't work. Quincy's very calm. So you got to find the right fit, and remoting.work will help you do that. They're very patient. They will work with you because they want a long-term fit, not part-time, not short-lived, but a long-term relationship. And so at Black and Global, we will teach them how, and we will work with the entrepreneur, and remoting.work will too, to be able to have a good fit. Second, so we have our 4th annual conference, Mr. Greer, coming up this year. And our goal was to have young people to run the conference. And so what we do is we invite businesses from all around the world, Black-owned businesses, to come and meet with and network in order to look at doing contracts with each other. And so we have virtual roundtables. We have a virtual international trade space, and it's virtual. And so anybody in the world can come, and it's all mapped out on the cloud, and we host our conference there. So our goal was just to bring young people in to run this conference this year and let people like me move to the side, and I just advise. But you just gave me an idea that I reach out to these young people, but from the business side, that's what we want to look at, economics, right? We want to see how can we partner with businesses that are operating in this country. Like, for example, we met with I don't know if it was Senegal. We met with one embassy to ask them, who are the Senegalese business owners in the US that you can connect us with that would hire young people from Senegal? So these are people from Senegal who have come to America. They've created businesses in America. They're successful in America. And this is an opportunity via remoting.work to hire someone that is from their country. And we talked with the ambassador to the Senegalese embassy here in the US for that. So we're taking like a lot of different steps to get young people on board. And so you just gave me an idea that, to reach out to these young people about joining us for our summit this year, that were a part of this movement, but from the economic lane.
Let me add this.
Can I offer 2 points real quickly too at some point?
By all means.
Okay, hi, so I'm Reggie Shuford. I'm also a son of Peter Grear, and I'm a lawyer myself, and I'm dialing in from Philadelphia. And I just wanted to add 2 short points. One, in terms of success stories to cover on podcasts or in articles, it seems like Melissa just offered up several in terms of the folks that she's hired. And I'm sure there are others to be, that could be identified as well. And then the second thing that I was thinking with respect to how to get young people to, develop a liberation plan for the economy of Africa. Was my initial thought was maybe something similar to an essay contest, but in this instance, it's the creation of a business plan. That would be the contest. And then now that Attorney Muhammad has identified a conference that bring young people together, it now seems even more identifiable that that conference might be the platform for where such a contest could happen.
Sure, and I think that your conference, do you have a date yet?
No, we haven't solidified the date. We're still working on that.
But yeah, we could take that conference and build a campaign around it and call for whatever kinds of talent or papers that will enhance what it is that we're setting out to do. And also I'm going to ask you and Tony how often you all can participate in this kind of event, because we can market them, and I think we have a great audience. And I will be reaching back out to ADDI because ADDI is on the ground with Dr. Ericana, and she moves mountains. So I just think we need to have some regular coming together so that we can, move what we're talking about forward. So Tony, you've already told me you've already told me you'll be available. I don't want to overdo it, but I mean, y'all should tell
Melissa,
me.
what do you think?
Yeah, I am open. The big thing for me is I just need advance notice, and Quincy can put it on the calendar. I'm definitely open. So just if you give me the advance notice, this was a good time for me. This was a workable time.
Okay, and we won't do it with too frequently, but
Okay.
just the thought that we're able to plan something around another meeting gives me something to write about, to talk about, and okay, I can work on that.
Okay.
Anyone else with thoughts or ideas, or am I able to give you all back 9 minutes that we didn't use? Well, thanks again for everyone that showed up, and I appreciate it, and hopefully you all will join us again. So with that being said, good night, everybody.
Good night. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Mr. Greer.
Right.
Thanks,
Thank
appreciate it.
you. You've been listening to the Economic Liberation of Africa, and what you've heard today is more than a conversation. It's a call to action. From Kigali to Chicago, this movement is about turning African talent into global Black prosperity. Let's stay connected. Drop your email in the comments to join our next virtual meeting or to be a guest. Share this episode with a friend, a colleague, or a network that needs to be part of this conversation. And if you're doing work aligned with our mission, submit your articles or op-eds for publication across our Greater Diversity News platforms, in print, online, and right here on the podcast. Today, our community stands at 1,250 subscribers, and we're reaching for 3,000 before our next big session. If you haven't subscribed yet, now's the time. Hit that button and join the movement. I'm Peter Grear, and this is your moment to help write the next chapter of global Black economic power. Until next time, keep building what they said we never could. Thank you.